David, page 154.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
La
Your children witnessed your sovereignty, the sea, the water, splitting before Moses and Miriam. This is our God, they cried. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel and all peoples. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Israel. Together, page 160. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people of Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporesu kat shalom. Aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Freedom's name is mighty sweet. Soon one day we're gonna meet. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. Hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. My hand on the freedom plow. I won't take nothing for my journey now. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. Hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on.
Only chain that a man can stand is that chain of hand in hand.
Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. Hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on.
Dr. King's no longer here, but his message is ringing clear.
Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on. Hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on.
Our prayer tonight is a prayer for justice. It's a prayer for holding on to what really matters. It's also a prayer for compassion and healing of people who are suffering. And that circle of compassion includes folks in our own community, in our own lives, in our own families who are in need of healing, healing of body, healing of mind, of spirit. So we mention names of folks we're thinking of specifically in our community who are ill. Thinking about Barbara Edelson, Judy Fine, Carol Berzin, Nancy Schwam, Heikki Vaisanen, John DiNicola, Natalie Lindstrom, Sue Bear, Linda Sherman, Danny Redak, Sybil Reno, Terry Duran, Peggy Tunick, Harvey Redak, Reagan Konecki, Louise Ross, Joe Watanabe, and Linda Thal. And if there are other names you'd like to say for healing, please say them as my eyes pass over the room.
Mike from Home Depot.
Carol, Lodi.
Shiny Mo.
Jose Peraza.
Stephen Duran,
Ellie Rosenberg. Libby Furman.
Jerome Long.
Yishaberach Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'Imotenu Sarah Rivka Leah v'Rachel Hu Yivarech et Kol HaCholim Eleh May the one who blessed all of our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless all of these whom we've named and others whose names we hold in our hearts. May God send all of their doctors and nurses and other caregivers extra measures of wisdom and skill, and send to all who love them extra measures of hope and strength. And send to them all a refuah shlema, whether we consider that to be a complete recovery or a cessation of pain. And let us say, Amen. At this time, it's my pleasure to invite up Stephen Davis, the president of our congregation, and also the person who is responsible for bringing us Professor Andrew Cohen, our speaker. So he'll give us some announcements and then introduce our speaker for this evening. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. So good to see everyone this evening. At the kickoff of a very busy Martin Luther King weekend in this community. I'm going to just start with some announcements and then introduce Andrew Cohen. First, as we know, on Sunday we're going to have, as Miriam Gardner-Frum tells me, 450 people in this room for Sweet Honey in the Rock. So bear in mind that starts at 3 o'clock. You may want to come early. There'll be parking here, but also satellite parking in St. Joseph's Church. So we'll look forward to that. We also have I want to make sure everyone is aware, on January 24th, Saturday, we're going to begin the first of a series of prayer labs. They're going to be the Rabbi and Belinda. They're going to be really starting to think about different ways of prayer. So please join us for that. That'll be at 10:30 on Saturday, January 24th. On Sunday, February 1st, to prove that we really are not just a shul, but a cultural center, we are going to have a talk by a fellow named John David Coles, who is the executive producer and director of House of Cards. If anybody here is a fan of House of Cards, he's going to be here to talk about the making of House of Cards. And the new season starts, or will open later in the month, so it'll be a fascinating look into this story. Also on Sunday the 1st, but in the morning, by the way, John David will be speaking at 3 in the afternoon. But in the morning, we're going to have Tu B'Shvat celebration, a birthday party for trees, as you know. We do need some volunteers for cutting and plating the fruits. So please contact Liz Jones. She's not here tonight, right? Is Liz here? Okay, so anyway, please contact Liz Jones too if you're available to help with that. And then on the following Tuesday, on the 3rd of February, we will have a book discussion for the book Climbing Jacob's Ladder, One Man's Journey to Rediscover a Jewish Spiritual Tradition. It's by Alan Morenis, and it'll be a very important part of a new kind of spiritual exercise that we'll be doing in this congregation. So please join us for that.
Can I pipe in and just say Alan Marinas is our scholar in residence?
Scholar in residence, that's right. So it's not just the book discussion on Tuesday.
So it's to get ready for him.
That's right. And the books are available, I think.
The books are available in the office.
That's right. And then last thing I'll mention is on Wednesday, March 4th, Shelley Sprague is organizing a Purim Spiel. And so if anyone is interested in lending your dramatic talents to this exercise, Shelley is in the back, right? So there's
Yes,
waiting.
join us for fun and games.
Good. It will be fun. Okay, that's, I think, all for the announcements except for one last one, which is that Andrew is going to be speaking tomorrow. If you know people who couldn't come tonight, he'll be speaking tomorrow at R.J. Julia's in Madison at 5 o'clock. So please join him there. And also his books will be available in the sanctuary, in the back afterwards. So feel free to come and pick a book up. So I want to say that there's probably nothing I find more fun, other than introducing family, than to be able to quell over a high school classmate. And Andrew Cohen and I were at Choate together just a few years ago, I think. Just a few. And we got to know each other maybe most intimately in the snows of New Hampshire in 1972, working on the New Hampshire primary for George McGovern. And then later working in Wallingford for the George McGovern campaign. But Andrew has moved on from, you'll remember that George McGovern didn't win, but Andrew was able to put together a career beyond that. And he walked away from the shambles of that campaign. That's right. And he and his wife, Mary, who's with us tonight too, just drove down 8 hours from Ottawa to join us tonight. But for people in Canada, you'll know Andrew because he's perhaps one of the best known journalists in the country, not just for writing for the Globe and Mail, but also as a commentator on television. His writings are broad and varied. I won't go through all of them, they're long, but if you want to know about what Canada is as a country, its cultural identity, its political identity, Andrew is the one who's written many books on that topic, and is really one of the wise figures. And I would say not just in Canada, but anywhere. He covered in this country for the Globe and Mail the Clinton administration, and in particular, he was in the South looking at civil rights cases that had long been dormant, and he covered and helped bring to light some of the cases that are so important in the history of civil rights in the United States. He's now at Carleton University in Ottawa, teaching there. But tonight he'll be speaking about his new book, which could not be more timely in the United States, given the debate that we have in this country about civil rights. His book is called 2 Days in June, the 48 hours that John F. Kennedy and the 48 hours that made history. And with Andrew's speech, we will get on our time-traveling spacesuits and return to 1963. So I'm delighted to introduce Andrew. Here.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Rabbi Bolivar. Thank you to my old friend, Steve. We were in the snows of New Hampshire together, and fortunately we didn't go down with McGovern entirely. But it was a very bad night. I think he won only Massachusetts and the District of Columbia. It really is a great pleasure to be here. The choir, you do rock. I've been in many black churches, particularly in the South. And I feel like I'm in one tonight. I hope that's a compliment. Dr. King would feel right at home. He really would. I thought I'd say a few words. I'm moved by the service because, Mary, I had a piece of paper where I had the yellow one, just where I had noted something from the liturgy, which I thought was very pertinent to tonight. This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of the night. Freedom's name is mighty sweet. Soon one day we're going to meet. Dr. King's no longer here, but his message is ringing clear. I've spent, about 3 years ago, I moved into the 1960s, metaphorically. And I spent a lot of time with Dr. King, with some of the more prominent members of the civil rights movement, and if I may say, with President Kennedy, in ways that I did not know I could before I began the work that produced this book, because I found things that people hadn't seen before, including documentary film, in which I sensed I could be with them at a certain point. And what I'd like to talk today about on this, the day after what would have been Dr. King's, I think it is 86th birthday, had he been alive today. You can see how young Dr. King was when he was assassinated in 1968. And I think of here the hour of change, the soon one day we're going to meet after saying freedom's name is mighty sweet, and Dr. King is no longer here. And what I'd like to take you back to, if I may, is another hour, another day, Dr. King. Dr. King and President Kennedy and their relationship, and what that meant in the spring of 1963. So my story, this story, begins in the spring of 1963, when, if you're a person of a certain age, you'll remember, or you'll know, or you'll have seen that America was exploding. It's hard to think of the nature of civil unrest in America at that time. But in city after city, what President Kennedy called the fires of discord and the fires of frustration are burning in America tonight were those words. They were indeed burning in America tonight in that spring. And it's in that spring, 2.5 years into the presidency of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, a presidency which was uneven. President Kennedy had had a number of crises. And it's in that spring that he begins his, what I would call, or he finds himself in his crowded hour. His crowded hour